welcome to another episode of Linked Africast. We are here representing Linked Africa, where we empower Africans through connection, learning, and mentorship. I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm Erin Kaba, and this is my co-host.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abraham Lorig, and once again, it is a pleasure to be on Linked Africast, a place where we get to share ideas and discuss skills that would be beneficial in the 21st century for young Africans and everyone out there. Happy to be here this afternoon.
Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation because it's probably one of the most important conversations we're going to have. Effective mentor and mentee relationships. I think a good relationship can make both the mentor and mentee go far, and a not so good relationship can, I think, impede our progress. So, Abraham, what does a healthy mentor-mentee relationship look like?
Thank you so much. I first of all believe every mentor and mentee must have that perfect match right from the beginning. That is what Linked Africa is all about. A good mentor-mentee relationship, or a healthy mentor-mentee relationship, first of all, must be built on mutual respect and understanding. I said those two together because there's no respect without understanding each other. And when I talk of understanding, I'm talking of what each other's needs are. Even though mainly mentorship is focused on the mentee, we also encourage mentors to know what they also want from the relationship. Because with that understanding built right from the onset, if you understand what the value of the relationship is, always the price to pay seems very little. And when I say the price to pay, we know with every good thing, there's something you need to invest. So the mentor goes in and knowing that the time they're going to invest in building the mentee's skills will not be wasted. So first of all, I think that the best quality is always mutual respect and understanding, knowing what the mentee wants and how to get them to that place. There's also the second factor of knowing the value of the relationship itself. Besides understanding each other and respecting each other, we must also know the value of the relationship. One of the best things that I have seen with my mentees over the years is that most mentees come in not knowing exactly what the value would be for them. Probably they had a problem, and maybe the advertisement of mentorship sounded good for them within the short term. But if the value, the long-term value is defined within the first or second meeting, we extend the value of the relationship beyond that initial want or the initial problem-solving idea the mentee came in with. Mentorship is not just about a short-term gain. It is a long-term relationship with the sole purpose of building the mentee for a long-term success. And that is the value I am talking about. And finally, defining goals. First of all, a good mentor-mentee relationship is one that is built on goals. So most of the time when I start my first meeting with my mentees is where we define goals. These are the things we want. At least 3 goals or 2 goals. It doesn't have to be 10 goals. It doesn't have to be 20. I believe even if it's just one, and this is the goal the person wants to achieve, it's very easier for the two of you to have an understanding of where you are going and how to get there. So these are things I would mention as being some of the features of a good or healthy mentor-mentee relationship.
I love that. Everything that you shared is right, in line with what I was thinking. I think the only thing that I can add to that, I mean, everything that you added was great. The only thing I could add is probably it's along the lines of mutual respect and trust, but having clear expectations of the relationship, like knowing what this is. So sometimes I feel some people can go into a mentor relationship and they might expect something at the end, like maybe a job offer or some sort of undiscussed expectation. So just know, like, you're both in this agreement, in this relationship, knowing that the one person is there to provide support and advice, and the mentor-mentee relationship isn't always like a friendship. You have to maintain that level of professionalism depending on who it is. So yes, you can have friends that are mentors, but have a clear expectation of, okay, this is my mentor. I'm not going to call them at 11:30 p.m. and complain about my problems, because maybe that's not the expectation. They're not your friend. So just going in, knowing the expectations of a mentor and an expectation of a mentee, I think that is valuable as well. So we talked about what a healthy relationship looks like. Let's talk about what the qualities are of a good mentor. Abraham, what do you have?
If you did hear me when you made mention of coming in and thinking of maybe a specific thing they want, like maybe a job offer, you heard me laugh loudly. I laugh that way because I have a very personal story that suits this particular thing you said
Oh,
so well. My early days of mentoring, one thing that I know and I keep telling everyone I meet is that it is okay to make mistakes early on in life.
mhm.
There's this principle called the principle of favorability that beginners lack. So some people begin and they succeed early. So when they make a mistake later on, they feel they are not good enough. I would rather make my mistakes earlier so I learn how to correct them on. My early days of mentoring, I met this mentee who came in with the sole purpose of getting a school abroad, specifically US. And instead of going by what I believe they should have, I focus solely on helping them to get the school. So the admissions passed and they didn't get it. Until date, they've not reached out again. I try reaching out, they are not picking my call, they are not responding to my messages. So clearly, I defined the whole relationship around admission, which I believe was wrong. Because even though that could have been one of the goals we wanted to achieve, I should have expanded it a bit beyond that and added some skills they could gain working with me. And I know I have come a long way. There are so many experiences I have that could have benefited that student's life. Even their interview skills could have been improved. How they take adversity, they deal with adversity. I could have worked on that so that when they got those rejection letters, they wouldn't feel as bad as they feel. And I think that was a clear example of someone coming in with the sole purpose of getting something. And if they don't get it, they feel like you've disappointed them. But it wasn't my fault. I don't give admissions, but probably that was the message they got from our early days of conversation. So I just wanted to add to that before I talk about the qualities. And I think one of the qualities, obviously, is being able to define the mentee's goals beyond one thing.
Yeah.
I think if we're able to do that, and one of the qualities, like I said, a good mentor should be able to define the goals beyond that. Secondly, I think a good mentor should also be able to pivot. When I say pivot, I mean if one strategy is not working, they should be fast enough to adjust or to adapt to a new trend, something different, so that the mentee knows they are not stuck in a bubble. That is so crucial. And the final thing I would like to add to the qualities is good listening, because it is so easy for us to go into any relationship and do all the talking, thinking that the mentee needs everything we are giving them. So we giving them a listening ear and asking questions earlier on the onset. I used to be an academic coach at Ohio University here in the US. And one time I met a student who initially, while they were scheduling their meeting with me, they had written they needed help with time management. So I prepared all my materials ready to meet with them. So when they came in, after I asked them, how are you doing? I just jumped in and I started also to manage your time. You need a schedule. I did everything. And the meeting was supposed to last for an hour, but mostly we used the first 45 minutes. So the final 15 minutes, we allowed them to ask questions. So what happened was, after I had used my 45 minutes, I paused and I'm like, so what questions do you have for me? And the student is like, I have a test 2 days from today. So I was coming in for you to help me to make a study plan,
Mhm.
meaning I should have asked earlier, what do they need? But
Mhm.
because I just saw time management on their meeting plan, I didn't ask. These are all early mistakes. And I share these not to say I'm a bad person, but I share this to let you know I'm a human. And it's normal to make those early mistakes. So these days, my first thing is when I am on a call with you, when I'm in a meeting with you, I ask early questions. What do you want us to do today? What can I do to help you to succeed? Within these 24 hours or within just these 5 minutes that we have together, what do you need from me? That can save you a whole lot of headache. Trust me. And that has been one of my best tools so far since I joined Linked Africa a couple of years back. Yeah, so I think these are qualities of a good mentor. First of all, knowing how to pivot and change your strategy, being a good listener and asking questions from the onset. So a mentor who does that, clearly, if you're a mentee, you know you have a good mentor on your hand.
That is amazing. I love that. I Pivoting is such an important quality to have in both the mentee and mentor. Like it's so important in life. You have to pivot, and knowing how to pivot and having the emotional intelligence to know when to pivot
Yeah.
is really good too. I think that a quality that a good mentor has is that the mentor is honest. A lot of times, like you said, they need to be a good listener. So
Mm,
they might pick up on something from their mentee, and they may be quiet and not really share certain things, maybe because they don't know how the mentee is going to take it, or
yeah.
they kind of give them a false sense of hope, or they just don't want to hurt their feelings. But it's not even
Mm,
that. It's about finding a way to show up in your relationship in an honest way, because your mentor can see things as a mentee. Your mentor can see things that you don't see, or they've been there and they can see, okay, they struggle with this, and I can see where this struggle could lead into even more struggle down the road. So let me be
yeah.
with them and say, okay, if you're struggling with time management here, when you get to your destination, time management is going to be something that if you're still struggling at that point, time management is going to be something that might make or break you. So just having that honest, that's just an example, but having an honest dialogue, having the ability to have an honest dialogue with you. If you have a mentor that is honest with you, you have a really good mentor, and a mentor that empowers you. You don't want to have a mentor who is always negative. You don't want to have a mentor who is pessimistic and always telling you what you can't do and
Mm,
it's too big for you. And like, everybody has goals. But like if the mentor is always telling you, giving you some type of warning when you're telling them your goals, that may not be the mentor for you. You want a mentor that empowers you, but is also honest at the same time.
thank you. Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
So let's talk about the role of the mentee. Mentors, have qualities that are good, but mentees have some things that they need to bring to the table. So, Abraham, what should
Mm.
mentees bring to the table?
I like to start off with this quote. Mentorship is a two-way street. In one of my meetings with the president, Michaelu, I was telling him when we were making plans for this summer youth mentorship program that just ended. And I was telling him it's a two-way street. So in our conversation to those who will be signing up to join the program, we must make that clear. You are not just coming in to take. We also expect you to bring. And when I say bring, that is exactly the question you're asking. And I really appreciate you asking that question. What should a mentee bring to the table? We have seen mentors who easily give up because the mentee was not pulling their weight. The mentor was trying all they can, but the mentee was not giving their best. I have worked with somebody, my first two, three mentees, one of them The first meeting they are there, the second meeting they are not there, the third meeting they are there, fourth meeting they are giving excuses, and clearly you can tell this person is not ready. So I think some of the things a mentee should bring on the board. If you are a mentee and you are listening to us, the first thing you would do to help your mentor is passion. Passion is like the fire in your belly. Let your mentor see you are passionate about what they are doing. You are passionate about success. You are passionate about the relationship you are building with them. Passion can do things that even knowledge cannot do. If somebody is passionate, they can go certain extent that with the greatest books you would read, you may not be able to get to that. So mentors often expect that their mentees will show passion as much as they are showing. Because like I said earlier, one of the qualities of a good mentor, and you also mentioned it again, is being honest. So if you are not careful, his honesty may not pay off properly for you, because at the end of the day, if you are not passionate about what they are doing, they would give up and you might be at the losing end. Second thing I believe every mentee, a good mentee, must also bring to the table is love for learning. So anytime somebody asks me, what are some of one of your greatest qualities? I tell them, I'm a lifelong learner. So when you come to my room, I've built my own library. I've not read all the books there, but sometimes when I look at my books, I'm like, I feel smart. Because there are hundreds of books here that I can pick one and maybe find a solution to a particular problem that I am going through or something that I need easily. So that love for learning is a quality that every good mentee must have. If you love learning, you come up with great questions that would give your mentor the opportunity to share solutions with you. Without love for learning, you will not be able to really contribute to the relationship when you join. And the final thing I want to add is the willingness to share. Like I said, mentorship is a two-way street. So you may have passion, you may love to learn, but if you're not willing to share, your mentor is not, let's say, a psychic that they will be able to read your mind and know your journey and your experience and be able to help you. I believe every mentee must want to share. They must be willing to share their journey, share what they are going through, share some of the experiences so that the mentor will be able to know how to also approach the relationship and be able to, build that mutual learning and understanding that we spoke about in our earlier conversation. So these are three things I would mention. Have passion, have a love for learning, and be willing to share.
Mm,
I would love to hear your thoughts on this one too, Erin.
I like that. Yes, passion, honesty. You mentioned honesty again, love for learning and being willing to share. I think accountability, having accountability is really
Mm.
good. Holding yourself accountable to the goals that you set for yourself and holding yourself accountable to the goals that you set with your mentor. Your mentor is taking time out of their day to support you. And you mentioned how um, one of your mentees, they, struggle with showing up to your meeting and they may not have been ready. Holding oneself accountable, it helps you push through when you don't feel like being there. There's going to be times where you're not going to want to meet with your mentor because maybe you've not done your homework or
Yeah.
or you have just had like a bad day or
Mhm.
stress, but hold yourself accountable to the time that you set because it builds discipline and you might be receiving something that you're lacking. Like you don't know. There's been times where even I've been on calls with mentees and even with my mentor where I don't feel I'm not 100%. I might be running on fumes, running on E basically. And I may just not want to be there, but I show up and the meeting ends up being really good and it lifts me up and it motivates me. And I've had times when I've left the meeting with clarity. I come to the meeting kind of stressed out and worried about something, but our conversation has brought me clarity. So I leave better than I arrived. So holding yourself accountable to the agreements that you make to your mentor is really good. The only other thing, because you shared a lot of really good things, be open to feedback. No one knows everything. And there's a quote, and I can't remember who it is. I feel like it might have been Nelson Mandela, but I don't think it was. I think it might have been Albert Einstein. If
Mhm.
you stop learning, you die.
You die.
So it's like you constantly have to be an open vessel and willing to learn because there is so much to learn. And you can be 70 years old and still be learning a lot about life and learning lessons. So be open to feedback. Um, that I think that marries the love of learning, but like just be open to feedback. Nobody is an expert on everything. So just be open to what your mentor is telling you.
Wow. These are great points. Wonderful.
You. And so let's talk about Linked Africa. Why Linked Africa? We um obviously have a mentoring program. You know, this is what we do. This is the core of our program. And let's talk about how Linked Africa ensures that we have the right mentors for our mentees. And Abraham, you are the head of our education committee. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, as you know, the director of education and in charge of mentorship, one of my duties that the board, which Erin is a part of, has assigned to me is to make sure mentees are matched with the right mentor. And this was part of this duty. It means it is not something we do randomly. We don't just pick a mentor and we're like, okay, you work with this person. No, there's a process. And that process is what ensures that at the end of the day, whatever qualities we've been discussing right from the beginning of this particular episode to now has to be found within the matching process. So first of all, when mentors sign up, what we do is we take them through an onboarding process. And that onboarding process is where we introduce them to the Linked Africa values, our goals, and what we expect, mentor expectations. So these three already set them up to be ready for what we want. So in a way, that is where we use to know whether they are a good fit for us, and they would also know whether Linked Africa is a good fit for them before we even move into an extended version of training for our mentors. So mentors are not just picked up and the next day they start working with mentees. They are taken through a training process that is called Guide the Guide. So we have experienced mentors that are already on board. Erin has been with us for over 2 years now. Ben is also there, Mick is there. There are many people that I can't mention their names. These are people who have been doing this job. Some of them have done this for 20 years, 18 years. Erin was a mentor for a long time, even before she joined us. So we assign these mentors to the mentees. They create a training program that mentors would join in order to learn some of the things we expect them to do whilst they are with their mentees. Of course, we know mentoring is something that also comes naturally. So some people may come in already having some skills. We are not disputing that, but at least Linked Africa is an organization, and every organization has a direction we want to go. So the training is to put them through that direction. So it's that is how the training is done. Shadowing is also employed before they go in. So when I say shadowing, for example, if I have a meeting with a mentee, new mentors can join that meeting to see how the program or the particular meeting was run, just to get an idea of how we do things at Linked Africa. These are some of the things we do before we now move on to the matching stage. That is where we now see what the mentee expectations are, what is their field, what do they need, and we look at which mentor within our fold could be very good for that particular mentee, and we match them. And then during their first meeting, one of us on the board can join to do an introduction so that the two would now know who would be their mentor and who would be their mentee respectively. So it's a long process, like I said, even though it sounds like it takes a year, it doesn't take a year, but at least it's a process that builds the mentor up before we assign them the mentee. And the mentee is also taken through an onboarding process, which introduces them to mentee expectations, the values of Linked Africa, and the goals of Linked Africa. So before they start, each of them know what is expected of them. And that's how we ensure there is a right mentor-mentee relationship right from the onset.
Yes. And we also provide support throughout the experience
Mm.
as well through Mentor Connect. So we have meetings where we connect with our mentors and we train them in those meetings, and they can share. So the mentor is being mentored
Yeah.
in a sense with other mentors. And I think that we have, various webinars that is open to everyone. And, we're all about education and connection and learning at Link to Africa. And we want to make sure everybody has the same common ground and the same place where, they're starting. So nobody's starting at a different place and under some type of different understanding. If we want everybody to be under the same understanding and have the same goals, and reach our mentees and help them and support them. So, is there anything else you would like to add about anything that we've talked about today?
Yes, the one thing I want to add is Erin is mostly the person in charge of organizing these events that we are talking about, especially Mentor Connect and the webinars we spoke about. She's being modest about it, but I just wanted listeners to know when it comes to everything we do at Linked Africa, we have distributed things for people to do. And Erin basically takes care of events, which has been very successful. Last 2 days, I spoke to Dr. Pakwasi, the host, the guest we invited for our last webinar, our last Mentor Connect event, and he is still excited about a possible future invitation again. He had a good time with our mentors, sharing financial literacy with them, which is one of the skills that our mentors also hold meetings on with their mentees. So, like you said, I think Mentor Connect, thank you for adding that to it. Mentor Connect has been one of our best programs so far at Linked Africa. But finally, I will encourage every mentee out there, or everyone out there, young Africans out there, if you don't have a mentor, please join us. Isaac Newton said, if I have seen far, it is only because I stood on the shoulders of giants. And basically showing that somebody who has already gone the way could be able to show you how to, escape all the loopholes and be able to go far. And that is what we are doing here. And all our programs are free to be a part of. So take advantage of this opportunity if you're an African out there and be part of this beautiful community. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. This was great. Thank you, Abraham. And we will let us know if you would like to have a mentor. Let us know if you want to be a mentor. We have our information either in the show notes or you can find us online. And we are happy to be here with you again. And stay tuned to the next episode. Bye.
Bye.